What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 239 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get the paperback or ebook copy of our curriculum From Ashes to Destiny, you can find them on Amazon. And speaking of that curriculum, today's episode is entitled My Childhood. And again, it's in response to just the crazy feedback I'm getting from people saying, hey, just keep going through the book. I know there's 30 chapters, but give us an episode for the introduction to each chapter. And I'm getting it from people who are going through it on their own, sort of one-on-one self-help with a mentor or all by themselves or parts of AA or NA, just lots of different feedback. So here we go. I'm going to be doing that. But first, I'd like to give a big shout out to our new listeners from China. That brings the total listenership to 74 countries. That's so awesome, guys. Just keep spreading the word. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's get into today's episode called My Childhood. And this is the first chapter of Phase 2 of From Ashes to Destiny curriculum, which deals with heart wounds. This chapter is entitled in the book, The Battle for a Heart. And it opens up with a poem by Gregory Williams, a man who I met while he was incarcerated, entitled My Childhood. So I'm going to read that poem, and then I'm going to give 9 discussion topics about it. Here we go. My childhood was dim, no light at all, full of pain and sadness as I recall. Have you seen my childhood? My mother was a junkie. She was always high. The truth wasn't in her. She was full of lies. Have you seen my childhood? My father, an alcoholic, but he was never there. Maybe he didn't love me, or he just didn't care. Have you seen my childhood? When I was mischievous, I was whipped like a slave. The pain I felt, I'll take to my grave. Have you seen my childhood? Mayhem and chaos day after day. Quite often I hit my knees to pray, feeling lonely and scared, crying night after night, looking towards God for open insight. Have you seen my childhood? My mother died at 40, but I didn't feel free. You have no idea what it's like being me. Have you seen my childhood? My father died at 43, but still no relief. I barely knew the man, so my mourning was brief. Have you seen my childhood? Now I'm all grown up, but my mind's not intact, because I have a dilemma, it being crack. Have you seen my childhood? I'm constantly confused and I don't know what to do. I've seen my childhood. Have you? Shaw. That's a deep poem, and I was so blessed when Gregory gave that to me and gave me permission to publish it, and I've used it so many times, and it's part of the curriculum, as you now know, and it's just deep. So let's go through some discussion topics about this poem and what it means and why it's in the first chapter of Phase 2, where we're starting to look at our heart wounds that may have caused or fueled our addiction. So the first question is, how would you describe your childhood if you compared it to Gregory's? Gregory talked about pain, talked about loneliness, talked about despair, talked about sorrow, lots of different things. How would you describe your childhood? I've had guys say, no, my childhood was fun and happy. My childhood was this and that. But as he went on with the poem, he dug deep and he dug deeper. So we all need to do the same. And that's why in this chapter, I ask each of you to write a poem about your childhood to just be able to dig deeper. The second discussion topic, Gregory talked about his mom saying she was always high. And I'm entitling this discussion topic AWAL, but AWOL here meaning absent without leaving. His mom was always around, so he was not physically abandoned, but she was emotionally absent. She was always high. She was intellectually absent. So I want you to be able to talk about, the difference between physical abandonment and emotional abandonment. And were you emotionally abandoned, and how were you emotionally abandoned in your childhood? Number 3, we're going to look at AWOL, the absent with really leaving, and it stands for absent while on leave. So I'd like you to talk about aspects of your childhood that you felt truly abandoned. In Gregory's case, his father was never there, and it made him feel that his father just didn't love him and didn't care. Did you have feelings like that in your childhood? Number 4, Gregory mentioned when he was mischievous, he was whipped like a slave. So, did you face any physical abuse in your childhood? And what was the physical abuse? Gregory said the whipping created a pain that he's going to take to his grave. What physical abuse did you face as a child that is just sort of impossible to ever forget? Number 5, Gregory talked about mayhem and chaos, feeling lonely and scared, crying night after night. So we're going to dig a little deeper into being abused, not just emotionally abandoned, but emotionally abused. How did it feel to you? Did you deal with that in your childhood? Number 6, Gregory is talking about his mother passing, but it never brought him any relief. And he never felt free. So I really want to entitle this discussion topic, No Closure, No Freedom. So did you deal with something to a point that you didn't get closure because of your childhood, and you still need to dig in there and find closure on it? Okay. And he ended that verse by saying, do you really know what it's like being me? So I want to ask you, does anyone really understand you? And how do you feel when people say they care, but they just don't get you? Number 7, when his dad died, Gregory said, I barely mourned the man, so I didn't know him. It was just a brief thing. So I want to entitle this, No Grief, No Relief. What stuff did you have that you were too young to process, and it still needs to be processed now? Number 8, Gregory said his mind's not intact. I want to ask you, what's your dilemma that keeps your mind feeling wonky? What have you kept repressed? He blamed it on crack cocaine, but what do you blame it on? Are you still blaming it on your drug of choice? Or can we dig into the emotional pain that is still going on in there that's keeping your mind a bit jumbled? Finally, in number 9, Gregory says, I've seen my childhood, have you? Even though I'm constantly confused and he doesn't know what to do, he knows and understands his childhood now. I believe that we can heal our own confusion by finding one person who truly understands, who truly sees our childhood, who's truly willing to spend the time with us and help us process it. Those are our discussion topics, and that's our introduction to the first chapter of Phase 2, dealing with heart wounds. And I'll try to get more than one out a week as we're going through this. So I'd ask you not just to tune in Monday for our next episode, but sort of watch the announcements, see if I get another 1 or 2 in during the week also. But I do appreciate you listening. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your feedback. And again, just keep your comments coming because they keep me fueling with ideas for future podcasts. Okay? Stay strong and stay resilient.